Hey guys, welcome back. So we're looking at the Epic build again with the spine cars, and in the last video we basically went through, had a real conundrum with the Walthers flat cars, how they didn't work out, and we were able to overcome the challenge by just scratch building these entirely. And it was a lot of work, but in the end I'm very happy with the results, because now I have 3 almost completed flat cars. Since where we left off, I have since gone and finished up the cars by adding the decals and safety striping, finished the brake piping on each of them, and then did some primer weathering, as I call it, with the airbrush to get the rust, dust, and everything like that. And so far so good, everything's looking pretty good. So we have the 2 Johnstown America cars here, and then we have the Berwick car in the back, the special one. And all the decals for the most part are just decal sheets from Smokebox Graphics. I just used their Helvetica font to do the numbers and letters. This set back here was done using the compressed bold lettering, and then the Epic logos are just by microscale. Those are just what are they? The large Roman font lettering, which isn't entirely accurate, but it looks right. Once it's weathered in, it looks pretty much spot on to what needs to be there. So they have the Epic logos on them. They're all decaled up and ready to go. So this leaves us with 3 half-completed models. In terms of trucks, where we're at with that is I'm going to be using the Atlas 100-ton roller-bearing truck, because obviously with the bolster sets, as I had mentioned before, those were Atlas, so only Atlas trucks will really fit those properly. And it just so happens that these cars use this style of 100-ton truck anyways, so I went ahead and bought a couple pairs of these. And the only thing I got to figure out is if the screws will work and if they'll be compatible with that middle joint there. Either way, I'll make it work. And even if I have to graft something together, I only got 3 couplings to make, so it won't be too big a deal. So we have the trucks figured out. The only other little trick that I ran into with these trucks, where the air hoses are on the model, you can see I removed them on this one. There isn't enough clearance. So what ends up happening is, when I had those air hoses like what was on there, which I installed originally, the truck was interfering by smacking those, and I had to make some adjustments, so I had to remove them. And in the end here, it looks like I'm not going to be able to have that really nice pipe that runs behind the air hose, so that's unfortunate, but it'll still be kind of hidden if I put the truck, but kind of a slight bummer. You know, I was looking forward to having that on there because it did look nice, but all the cost of having the trucks and everything on there, which you need, because obviously I can't have cars that aren't going to roll, otherwise why did I bother building them? So that's where we're at with the flat cars. So we've done pretty good there. The next challenge with this project is the actual Epic containers, because these aren't produced in HO scale in plastic by any manufacturer except a certain company, which I'll show now. The answer lies in this box here, and as you can see, it's by Shapeways. I think you guys get the idea where I'm going with this. What these are 3D printed plastic containers. These are done by Barry Clements, and he did several versions of the Epic containers. I believe all the variations, and I actually had found these by accident when I was looking up Epic containers. I found that these were actually manufactured in HO scale, so I went ahead and bought a couple sets of these, and we're going to give them a little look at and see how they look on the models, and hopefully these will work. As you can see, here is the part number and all that you guys can look up, and here are the actual containers, which are clear plastic, 3D printed, and I got quite a few sets of these for these cars. So we're going to go ahead and unpack these, take a look at the... Well guys, I am happy. I'm very happy. Look at these things. Isn't that cool? It's amazing what we can do with 3D print. Now before we jump the gun here, yes, it does have the common problems with 3D print where it has the layered plastic. You can see it does have a bit of a graininess to it. However, I found with a little bit of automotive primer, thick build primer, you can usually build that up pretty well at the cost of, obviously you do lose a little bit of detail, but there really isn't that much detail on these containers in real life anyway, other than the chains. But even those, they're actually finer molded than the Atlas parts that are on their containers. You can see I've chosen the version that does not have the caps, and that is because my plan is to actually make my own little tarps for these specific containers. I might do some detailing because a lot of these have rods that run the length of the container, but we'll see how far we get with these. So as you can see, we got a good lot of these things to actually start with. So it's going to be a little bit of work actually priming and painting all these, but I am down for the challenge. And obviously, this is only the first order. I have to order about the same amount for the other cars that I have over there. And then another set. This is one I actually had built earlier, a Gimmicks version, special built. But I'm going to get special containers for this later on, but that's another story. What we're looking at now is these, and if we actually take them and put them on our model of the flat car, let's see here. Look at that. Look at that. My God, that is so cool. Damn. Alright. So, I think you guys can tell my excitement here. This is freaking insane. I am insanely excited right now. This is freaking great. I don't even have words. This is awesome. Barry, thank you for making these. You're a hero to us detailed modelers. This is fantastic. Definitely worth the cost. I'm really happy with these. And they're solid plastic. I know a lot of people complain about 3D printed plastic being really brittle. This is pretty good. The print quality, of course, is excellent. And there is some detail, like the little pinholes in the little bracing for the pins where the containers are jointed together. I'm really impressed. That's a really good quality. So this is the 3-rib version. There's also a 9-rib version, but I'm going to get some of those later on. But yeah, very satisfied with the results. The first step here is going to be to scrub and wash all of these containers, and then I'm going to spray them with primer. So the next time you see all of these containers, they're going to have a primer coat on them. So I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead a little bit. I'll get all these done, and I'll come back and show you guys what they look like primed up. Of course, I like to be productive, so while I'm waiting for paint to dry on these containers, as I go about painting them, I'm also going to be working on prepping the car bodies to actually take the containers. Now, up to this point, they've been pretty much intact, but what we needed to actually do is make the little mounting pads to put the containers on. If we take a stock flat car here and put the container on it, as you can see, it's flush to the deck, and that's not prototypically accurate, and that's not normally how they would do it. You can see how it's flush to the deck. There should be a spacing between that, a little rise. What these are actually risers, and they're where the pin would go to actually lock the container in place. Instead of gluing it down, what I'm going to do to be more realistic and prototypical is I'm going to actually make little pads to mount the containers to, and this is where we come into this set here. What I've done is I've taken some U-channel, which is this material here. As you can see, it's grooved styrene, one of the wonderful structural shapes that companies like Evergreen Plastruct make. If you guys want to know what material that is, this is the Plastruct code here. That's what I'm using for this. And I just basically take a stem about that long and cut little nips to create little pads. And as you can see, I've measured them out on the flat cars themselves to get the correct positioning there. And I've cut enough to do one set of cars at a time, so you have 6 pads per car, as you can see. So now that I've done that, if we take the container carefully here, we will see that now we have the correct height. We now have the containers with the free flow effect, and as you look, there is actually a gap, a realistic gap underneath the flat now, which is realistic. So you can see it's actually raised up. So now it's prototypical and it looks way better than what it was. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to all these cars while I paint these containers. So that's what I'm going to be working on in the meantime. Again, I always like to just try to be productive, always thinking ahead of time. What can I work on while I wait for paint to dry? What can I work on? How can I be as, fruitful with a project as possible? You always want to try to plan ahead and think of things that you can work on, and as obviously there's plenty of things I can work on for now. The next thing I really need to work on is figuring the trucks and everything like that and getting the right screws and figuring if I need to do any modifications. But the big thing for now, I'm going to be spending the entire next portion of the week just painting containers, and then I might have to get some more decal sets for them as well, but I'm going to do that now as some stuff. just a little progress video here. This is what the containers look like. First issue is they are pretty grainy, as you can see. So, you know, it's one of those things where it kind of comes down to, if you're going to use 3D printing, that is something you've got to look out for. It is a little disappointing. You could sand this potentially. I didn't do it for all mine just because I wanted to get them done, and maybe I should have in hindsight, but I didn't. But this plastic is pretty easy to sand. The only thing that I'm getting kind of annoyed with is that you can't really put any supports on them. As you can see, with the plastic, it has a tendency to kind of warp inward, so I was trying to use these reinforcing ribs, but they have this tendency to keep breaking off because the plastic is so thin. So that's something I got to kind of work on right now. But other than that, I'm just going to kind of keep trying to see if I can fix these up a little bit more, maybe detail them a little. But other than the containers, I've been also working on the flat cars, and I have the Berwick car right here. And this has been a real challenge because I've been trying to figure out the exact trucks I can use. Now, I'm using Atlas bolsters, but the problem is I also have a Walther's pin here. And I'm trying to use trucks that will actually work. And the only trucks that I've really been able to find that actually work for this car are the Walther's truck here. This is the more standard Gold Line RTR style truck, and I've put 33-inch wheels on this because I can't use 36, because as it turns out, once I put the 36-inch wheel truck on the car, it didn't work very well. It kept striking the coupler pocket, it was striking the detail on the end, so I had to make a compromise and use 33-inch instead of 36-inch, which is what I wanted to use in the first place. So that's a little disappointing. As you can see, I'm trying to go through all my screws, trying to find specifically Walther's screws I can use because they're the only screw that'll work with this truck. So it's a bit of a challenge, and that's kind of the catch with scratch building, is you got to have the right materials to go with what you're using. But I'm going to get it done. I just got to kind of work through this here and convert a couple of Walther's trucks that I have with the 33-inch wheels, the proto wheels, which I have right there. So we'll keep trucking along here. I'll show you guys what comes out of this. Alright, well, mission accomplished. I think I know I'm going to do this now. I found a set of screws that actually were compatible. So these are going to work. These are all Walther's screws. They're actually for some ballast hoppers that I have. So I just took those off, and they ended up working just fine for the Atlas bolster and the truck. So I now have the proper set of trucks to join together for each flat. So there you go. There's a complete spine set right there. And it looks pretty cool. So I just gotta finish weathering some stuff. I'll start weathering the wheels and trucks. Basically my goal here is to just go ahead and finish up the flat car. I'm waiting on paint for the containers because I don't actually have the paint yet. These are just primed, so once my paint comes in I can actually finish them, but right now the priority is just getting the flat cars done. So I want to get all three finished up by doing the powder work, doing some mud splatter, rust, things like that. And then I'll get all of them sealed in, protected, and set aside. And then from this point on, once the flat cars are done, my primary focus will be on finishing all of my containers. So that's the next plan here, but so far so good. The fruits of my labor are starting to pay off, and they're starting to get really rewarding. Alright, well, first spine set is done. Looking pretty good. Just like any other trash car, these things get caked in mud splatter, all kinds of garbage juice. The trucks get really dirty. So I focused a lot on that. The safety striping is all beat up and chipped up. Lots of rust on the beam. Lots of grime spray, because it's all exposed skeletal construction, so all that spray and everything gets worked up all over the frame of the car. The mounting pads, generally on these kinds of trash flats, they get very rusty and dirty. I've seen it up close. I've actually walked up to a couple of these spine cars in real life and looked, and they always are really rusty. So lots of spray up on the end, dirt on the trucks, that kind of thing. So this was the first experimental weathering job on one of these, and I think it turned out pretty good. I figured I'd knock out the unique car first, since it had a lot more bits to work around, and it turned out good. The only thing I got to do now is fabricate some stirrups, and then I'm going to install those. I'll paint them and weather them to match. Other than that, I'll get this one, I'll get the wheels cleaned off, and then it's done. Alright, so I wanted to make another quick clip on the containers before I paint them. One major downside is that, as you can see, they do still have a lot of texture on them. However, with these kinds of models, once they're at a distance, they're painted, they're decaled and weathered, and I put a gloss coat on them, you're not going to see a lot of that grain, and I can live with it. They're small enough, and they're going to be covered by tarps, you know, so it's kind of a compromise. Now, granted, if I was building a full-scale model, let's say a fully 3D printed gondola, that wouldn't be acceptable. I would go back and I'd be carefully sanding and filling a lot of this in, and then trying to redo the finish as best I could. But again, you know, you choose the amount of pain you want to go through to fix something like this. Personally, again, at a distance, you can't really see that as bad, and once it has a gloss coat, it's painted up, you won't be able to see that. That gray primer will be hidden. So let's actually talk about painting these now, because my process for these is going to be the same for each. I've chosen to do a couple of the black Epic containers. I've chosen to do some of the maroon ones, which I don't have a picture of, but they're kind of the newer version of these containers. And then I'm going to be doing the more common gray ones. And the first ones I'm going to paint are the gray ones. And I have a nice color here that I found online. What I'm going to be using for the maroon ones is some Wisconsin Central Maroon from Flowquill. And then I have CSX Gray. Both these colors I carefully selected out of my stock. And the gray is just about dead on for the Epic container. This style here. The color's pretty much spot on, so it'll work real nice. Now, you guys are probably wondering about decals. Well, I have a solution for that, and let me show you something real quick before we get too deep into it. Right, so the gray ones have maroon lettering with the reporting mark on the front. They have some labels and things like that. So I went through Circus City Graphics and I had them actually make me a decal sheet with the reporting marks, different car or container numbers for each gondola. And then I also have the white version here to do the maroon version and a few to do the black version where they have the white lettering like this. So you can see I actually have all of the appropriate lettering and markings on there, which is pretty cool. And if any of you guys are interested, this decal sheet was pretty easy to do. I got it from Circus City Decals. If you want a set like this, just go and ask Matt at Circus City. Tell him that you're looking for a set of these Epic decals, and he should have this artwork still on file, and he can make a sheet like this for you, and that'll work out for you if you choose to go that route. So that's how I got these decals. So anyways, I'm going to be using those. Alright, so now onto the painting. Just going to be using my airbrush. I'm going to be thinning out this Flowquill paint, which is still viable, surprisingly, after all these years. I'm just going to be using some 70% isopropyl alcohol. I'll thin it down, make a nice thin wash, and I'll just spray each one of these by hand. I have quite a few to do in gray, and then I only have 3 to actually paint in maroon. I might do 4. We'll see how we get along here. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, here's the containers all decaled up so far. I have 2 versions. I have the maroon, newer Epic style container, and I have the older, more common gray units here. So they're all decaled the same way. I just use my custom decals to do them up. The warning labels, all those little labels, are actually from a different sheet that I've had for a while. I have several of these that were custom made, and I was using these to do my US Waste trash train for a client, but he also gave me a bunch of sheets to do some of my own containers, so these have come in handy because they have all the specific data and labels that I need to do these. So that worked out pretty nice. So I have the nice labels on them. I have the Epic decals on. And again, there's 2 versions, so I have the more common gray style. And then these are the newer style that they're doing currently with the newer model of container. I think they're either refurbished or they're a new model container. I'm not actually sure. But basically they're this really nice maroon color, and they have the bright striking white Epic logos. So I think they look really cool. So I painted up 3 of those. I might do another one, who knows, we'll see what happens. But I got that one so far. And then I'm also going to be doing the black white letter versions too. I just placed the order from Shapeways, so those will be coming in the mail here in about 2 weeks. So we're making some good progress here. I still got all of these to decal up. These are on the sidelines waiting to get painted. Or decaled, rather. So those are on standby. I'll probably finish decaling these up tomorrow night after I get off work, and that'll complete them. Also, it should be noted on these, I have not put any end decals on any of these. And the reason I've done that is because I'm waiting until I actually have these installed. Excuse me, I'm very tired. I'm going to be waiting to install these on my flat cars before I do end reporting marks, because some of these are obviously going to be positioned weird. I wouldn't want to put decals on an end like this if it's going to be butted up to something where it's going to be hidden. So for example, what I would do is if this was a set, a 3-unit set that'd be on one car, I'd put the end reporting marks on this one, I'd have them on the top of this one, and then I'd have them on the back, and then on the bottom of this one I'd also have them here. So I'm just trying to save my decals, and I'm not trying to do every single label, but I'm just having the ones that I need mainly. So that's going to be the plan there. Now, obviously these are wide open, and so my solution for this, because the prototypes have large tarps that they use, some of them have lids but mostly tarp, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to use a special adhesive tape that's coming in the mail. I ordered it on Amazon. I'm going to be cutting large sheets out, and I'm going to basically wrap it over the top corners of the container. So one long tarp to go over the edge to cover both ends, and then another larger tarp to fold over, just like that. And then once those are on, I can just kind of weather those, obviously. But that'll be pretty cool when that's coming in. So that's going to be my solution for that. When it comes in, I think it'll be pretty cool because I've never really done tarps before. So I'm looking forward to actually trying that out and seeing what I can come up with that. So that'll be one of the next things we're going to do. So, alright, I'm going to go ahead and set these aside. They're pretty much ready for sealing in. I'm going to gloss coat the red ones since they're new, and then the gray ones I'm going to dull coat, and then they're going to be more heavily weathered than the red ones, obviously, as well. While I'm waiting for my clear finish to dry, I went ahead and put together the last two spines, and as you can see, they now have the trucks. Again, these are Walther's trucks. I was going to use the Atlas like I had said before, but I found out that the Atlas trucks don't really work properly for this style of bolster, and also the 36-inch wheels come in contact with all this on the decks, the coupler pocket, they strike all that, and so I had to slightly modify each car accordingly to fit the newer Walther's truck, and then I had to use only 33-inch wheels so that these could properly operate. So it's a slight sacrifice, but it's for operation, and at the end of the day, these things have wheels, and they look right, so that's what matters in my head. Anyways, they're all trucked up. I weathered the trucks and wheels, and they're pretty much ready for final weathering, which involves doing the mud splatter, the chalks, powders, and things like that, and then they will also be done. So we're actually at a pretty good milestone for the project. The cars are almost done, and we pretty much only have to do the containers at this point. So we've gotten a lot done, and I'm, again, very thankful that I stuck with the project. It shows what a little bit of determination can get you. I now have 3 very unique custom-built cars that are not manufactured. You can't get these in brass, you can't get them in resin, they're not 3D printed. They're unique and special for this operation. Cars I've wanted for years, and I finally have them. So, I mean, it's very good satisfaction to be able to learn these kinds of skills and be able to build cars like this and have them.